What's up, y'all? My name is John, and welcome to Brothertiger's World, a podcast where I, Brothertiger, interview people I find interesting in and around the world of music. I'm really excited about this week's guest because he's had a major hand in the sound and direction of my music since about 2015. If you've listened to anything I've released in the past 10 years, then you've heard and experienced his imprint firsthand. He also happens to be one of my best friends. His name is Jon Markson, and he's a producer and recording/mix engineer based in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania. To say that Jon is a prolific producer would be an understatement. He might be the busiest person I know. In the world of rock music, genres like hardcore, pop punk, heavy alternative, Jon is highly sought after as a producer, recording engineer, and mix engineer. He's been a part of countless records, more recently from bands like The Story So Far, Drug Church, Drain, Soul Blind, and Brothertiger. It's wild to look at Jon's discography and see my albums in the mix of primarily hardcore bands, but in all honesty, looking at his Venn diagram of genres and influence and my position within it, his style and his impact, it just works on my music. It gives it this unique dimension that I otherwise wouldn't be able to find on my own. In this episode, we talk about his journey in becoming a producer, his approach to producing and mixing for bands, our shared obsession with cool digital audio gear from the 80s and 90s, and much more. As always, if you have any thoughts, questions, or general comments, feel free to email me at brothertiger.world@gmail.com. And now, here's my conversation with Jon Markson. Jon Markson, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, buddy. How are you, man?
I'm great. Thanks
Amazing.
for jumping on this. You are my third guest.
That's awesome. I
And,
love that.
Yeah, it's exciting for me. I'm glad to have you here. I know a lot of people who listen to me, who listen to my music. They know your name from the album credits, and so I think you're a different vibe for this because I've had two electronic artists first, and then I had you, so you're kind of a different flavor.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for being here. How are you
buddy.
doing?
I'm doing good, man. Did you guys get hit with the newest blizzard?
We did.
We did. I don't know. I think the last one was worse, but I was locked in the studio for the last couple days in New Jersey working on a record. Essentially, like I just had to commit to this. I was like, Julia, it's snowing. I know we have a 3-month-old child, but I'm not coming home tonight. I need to make guitar music with my friends.
Jersey got hit really hard.
Jersey got hit really bad. Allentown didn't get hit that bad.
Yeah.
Like I think Allentown was hit really bad last time, but I think we only got 3 or 4 inches this time. Stuck in the studio. Probably smelled like shit. Took a shower. got on the Zoom with my boy, and ready to roll.
Wow, what a Tuesday.
Yeah. What a Tuesday.
Well, I always like to start these out by kind of getting your like beginnings, like where you started, how you kind of started. So I just want to see where you started in the world of like making music. Did you like want to learn guitar when you were a kid? Was that so you wanted to learn guitar like what, when you were like 12, 13, something like that?
Yeah, I got into music. I feel like when I talk to other people, my origin story with deciding that music was the end-all be-all of life was like a little late. Like I think I didn't discover that I loved music until I was maybe 11 or 12. Okay. When I was 4 or 5, I was like obsessed with playing a guitar, but I don't know if I had any idea about like what made a song I loved particularly. But I do remember like my dad playing a George Benson track in the car when I'm maybe 6 and like obsessively listening to it over and over and over again. So maybe that was a slight genesis to the torture you have to put yourself through as a producer by listening to the same couple minutes of music over and over again. But I got a guitar when I was 12 after discovering Green Day. And I feel like a lot of people my age generation and like interest group, like skateboarding and punk rock or whatever, got in kind of through Green Day or Blink-182 or Nirvana and like became obsessed with it. But kind of in the same moment of getting obsessed with the guitar, I got interested in the recording element of it. Not because I had any conception of the studio, but because I was always really into tinkering with computers and electronics. And I got I was doing the thing where you were, which a lot of other recording people's origin story came from, where you're like bouncing between karaoke machines, because there are a couple of those MTV karaoke machines in my basement, and like I would play guitar in one and whatever, made some terrible sounding recordings that I wish I had the cassettes of. But then around the same time that I got a guitar, I got an 8-track, and just kind of got so into putting songs together and playing, and I took to it really fast. And then that just kind of pushed me through middle school and high school. I loved writing songs, but more than writing songs, I really loved playing with people. I, again, had no conception of what being a producer was, but I definitely was kind of the producers in the bands that I was playing in. Like, I would write some of the songs, and I was certainly like the primary or collaborative songwriter in the bands, but more often than not, I was the guy that was like, yo, this riff would be better if we did it this way. And I definitely had a natural aptitude for playing, maybe beyond some of my peers. So, like, I was the guy that was able to kind of whip the stuff up together kind of fast. And then when I got to college, in high school as well, I got like Logic or Sonar X3.
Oh, yeah.
And we're putting songs together that way. I think I started to develop an idea of what the recording studio was, because my bands, when we were 16 and 17, were recording in a local studio, and we definitely were obsessed with the idea of like putting out records and whatever. You know, like any kid that grew up in punk and hardcore DIY stuff, that's just part of what you strive to. It's like, I want to record my songs, I want to put out a record, I want to play shows, I want to tour in a band, blah, blah, blah. I get to college. I still don't really necessarily see being a producer as the thing. I see maybe more or less a rock star dream still. But then at some point in time, probably around the same time as you, I got bit by the recording and producer bug about making music, and interned at several studios, was just obsessively recording bands at college and just getting so into the thing and playing in bands. And even though I was in college, I was like going and playing shows in New York City every other weekend. I think kind of like you, living parallel lives. Me and you both interned at the same exact recording studio without knowing there was another Jon, and then graduated college, joined a band that I was going to be touring full time in, and was offered a job in a recording studio in Brooklyn. I get there, and then there's another Jon that already is there doing the exact same thing as me, and that's Brothertiger. And then that's kind of the origin. That's, and that at this point was also 15 years ago almost. But yeah.
God, you already went through like all of my questions.
Oh,
right
no.
No,
just
we
the beginning extrapolate question. On it.
No, yeah.
This is the origin story into like, I feel like where the kickoff for all of our careers are, because everything is kind of training-ish up until that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, one of my questions was like, when did you know you wanted to be more in the creative process of music making versus the like performative process? Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you quickly caught on to that. Like in
I think they happened. I think they just kind of naturally happened in parallel, you know, because I was so into the tweaky nature of making music and recording it and like figuring out software, you know what I mean? And figuring out stuff. And me and you are from like the golden age of software piracy. So like it was pretty easy if you were kind of smart with a computer to figure out how to download and pirate software relatively easily. So I definitely had pirated software and pirated plugins, and even before I knew what plugins were, you know, like I didn't really understand what any of this stuff was. But me and you were also blessed to be of a certain generation where, because we got into making music in like the very, very early 2000s, it still is not completely transferred over into the digital super domain that we're in now. So I recorded in some studios that were on tape as well, and had some of that experience of like, whoa, what is that? Why is this making my guitar sound that way? Like, oh, I had to do another vocal take. That wasn't, you know, and like, and working my way through that with another person, and had older mentors in general. I was always like kind of the younger dude that had older guys take me under their wing a little bit and be like, this kid can play and he has a creative drive to do stuff. I was like obsessed with making music and putting out records, and I'm not sure how many of them actually came out properly, but I was constantly like making tracks and putting them on the internet and like collaborating with people and just constantly making music for and with people without realizing that it was feeding into the idea of like being a record producer. And obviously producer means I'm babbling, but producer means two different things in a certain world. Like, you're a producer and you can produce records the same way I do, but a lot of people will see the guy that is making the electronic music, the pop song, whatever, as producer. And I have that in me too. But when I say producer, I more mean helping see your vision and execute your vision as a producer, technically and creatively. And I didn't understand exactly that was a role, but it happened over time. And then when I discovered that, I'm noticing the same name on record covers a bunch. I had a couple of other older companions when I was like in late high school and college that kind of introduced me to that idea of like a little bit of the glory of what it means to be a record maker. And then I was hooked by the idea of it,
Wow. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting hearing that because you seem to kind of just garner this experience through just making as much as you could at a young age and just kind of figuring out everything like really like kind of in the moment. When you were in college, like when you started college, did you at all have a different idea of like what your life was going to be like when you got out of college? Like what you're going to do? Like, was it?
I think I went into college kind of split. I went into college thinking that I probably had to get a real job. But another part of me was like, I want to be in bands and be famous in a band, because I had already done like a little bit of touring. I had some friends that were older that were touring, no one in big bands yet, but maybe when I just got into college, I didn't really consider music as like the career, but I also had no idea what that would have been otherwise. You know what I mean? Yeah. I had no conception of what I could possibly do. Like, like I liked computers. Like I probably could have been like, you know what, I'll be a computer programmer or something, but I don't even think I thought that way. Yeah. My parents were encouraging, but they weren't like the most, I will call them the perfect amount of unencouraging about having an artistic career. And I say that to their face now. Like it took until many, many years into it where they're like, okay, you're doing fine.
Yeah.
know? But it took a long time. And definitely at the time there was no reception to the idea that I wouldn't have like a regular job, but I had no idea what that regular job could be, my mom's first cousin was in Nirvana. She was the cellist on the Unplugged album and was like an avant cellist in the Seattle area. And to me, when I was young, I saw that as you can have a career in music without being a famous singer, but when I sort of was pushing that way at end of high school and like touring in bands a little bit, like when I say touring, I mean like driving from Allentown, Pennsylvania to like play a show in New Haven, what I mean? And like maybe like one other show on the way. My parents were like, yeah, no chance. Like that doesn't work. Meanwhile, my mom had people like that in her life. So I don't know if part of her was rejecting what she saw with them as like not succeeding or whatever, because my parents are traditionally working people. Like neither of them work in an alternative sphere. So when I went to college, I thought I was going to get a real job and things were just like not working out. And then not working out, I was doing fine grades wise, but I think I was studying economics or something. And
in college?
Like for freshman year. And I like thinking about economics and money or whatever, but I was like not doing well in the classes and I was so unengaged.
Wow.
And I took summer classes the summer after freshman year and I took tonal theory 1 and 2 and I was like kind of hooked at the idea. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a music degree and I'll take it from there. But I'm a self-taught musician. So like I had a lot of that in my head already from just like listening to bizarro music, but I like rejected learning theory and I rejected being taught how to play an instrument formally as a kid. So like it took until realizing that I wasn't going to succeed in any other major in college to be like, I'll study music, fine, fuck it. And then that sort of snowballed into, wait, maybe I can have an alternative or like a creative life as a career. And then that completely took me over in about like 6 months. I was like, I'm going to be a recording engineer. I'm going to be a producer, and looked for studio internships for the summer times and was recording the bands around college. And again, I'm sure they sounded like garbage, but I was like the one guy that could kind of do it. And just became obsessed with it really fast.
So you went to college undecided?
Completely undecided.
I didn't know that. Wow.
No idea.
Interesting.
No idea. Yeah, I went to college, and the only thing I was decided on about going to college is I went to Connecticut College in New London, partially because they had a music scene. Like they had this barn that was a converted squash court, and it was like this bohemian, bizarro practice space for bands on campus. So I went to the college, A, because it was a good school, B, it had a vibe when I was there that seemed supportive of a music community. Again, why that's not necessarily a reason to go to college, but when you're 18 years old, you're like, I'm here for the vibes and hopefully an education. And I also played squash, so I was like doing athletics, and like I was decided I was doing that, like I was going to be involved in an extracurricular musical lifestyle and play squash. But as far as like any interests in education, I had no idea. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do? You knew you were going to do a musical study thing?
Yeah, freshman year, I went. Yeah,
you already decided.
I mean, yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that seems cool. I discovered it like senior year of high school, and I discovered it, and actually, my parents were pretty keen on it because it was an actual, college degree instead of like a, you could go to trade school for audio recording, but this was like at an actual university and it was audio recording, so it was like liberal arts, and that's I think what got them stoked on the idea.
Well, I can remember, at least for me, like when I visited the college campus, one of the things that my school did have was in the music department, there was like a music and tech department, and there was a music and tech degree, which was essentially just like two minors. It was essentially a music minor and a computer science minor, but they would call it a major because you'd have like some interdisciplinary final project or two. But one of the people from the music department that were involved was this dude, Arthur Krieger, who is like this legendary composer for new, post-tonal new music, electronic music stuff. And he captivated me because like I knew from him that like Radiohead had sampled some of his music, and he was super interesting, and he was Jewish as hell and reminded me of my grandfather. So I was like, you're cool, and, I got like really into that. And I think my parents were like, yeah, this is a great reason for you to be excited about school, but you're not going to major in this. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're like, you can minor in it. You should still study something. Yeah. Like, my mother, who's a lawyer, my father's a physician. They're like, yeah, that's not a job.
That's interesting. Just like them taking a little bit of time for them to be like, okay, this seems legit. Like,
it took until 5 years ago. It took until I was like 30 years old. But like, because I remember touring in Japan, like, me and you both have like a similar arc to our thing where like we've been going at it for a long time and like touring in bands for a long time and blah, blah, blah. I remember we were living together when I toured the first time overseas and Such Gold went to Japan. I remember my dad was sending me programs that I could apply to go back to school for music management. Meanwhile, like I had a manager, like my band had a manager, like a real-time management. And I just remember rejecting the idea so hard. I was like, do you not see that like I'm doing what I wanted to be doing my whole life? And they just could not accept it. They weren't like, you should stop, but they would do the most subtle version of like, this is still not real.
Yeah, it's like a honeymoon.
It took until I was maybe 30 years old and had like many little successes by that point before they were like, okay, fine, you can do it, whatever. They'll probably watch this and hear me say that, and my mom will guilty text me, but she knows it's true. Like they both know it's true,
Yeah, it's like something that you have to really like live it to understand it. I think.
Yeah, and I don't lament it. As I said, I actually say that they were the perfect amount of non-supportive because I think that the fucking punk rocker in me like just wanted to prove them so wrong. And I've always been close to them. It wasn't like necessarily contention, other than just general being like a teenage boy contention. But that desire to prove to them that like I could just do it my way definitely helps me do it my way.
Which I think was and now still is really, really hard to do.
Yeah,
in this world.
Really,
and that leads to my next thing. Like when you were. I guess even while we were at the gallery, which is the studio where we lived at in Bushwick,
do your fans know about what that?
No, I guess we should get into that.
I kind of want to hear like your experience of meeting me in that scenario.
Yeah,
like, I feel,
so John and I first met at we both lived and worked in this recording studio in Bushwick called the Gallery. And I had interned there in, I think, 2010, the summer of 2010. And then you did maybe the summer after?
Yeah, 2011? The summer after 2011.
And then we both just interned there for summer programs during school. Both went back to school, both graduated, and then both got offered basically rooms to live in at this space. And that was how I moved to New York. That's how you moved to New York. And we lived in this loft that also had a tracking room and 2 control rooms, one above my bedroom.
One below mine.
One below yours. So very like crazy, like once in a lifetime kind of experience, I think.
It was extremely serendipitous.
Yeah.
Extremely serendipitous. I think just also extremely serendipitous that, not serendipitous that we got along, but I think that to me, when I first met you, I was impressed by the fact that you were an artist that wasn't just like, oh, I'm like moving to New York and being in a thing, being in a band. Because I'm sure I had so much to prove to myself that like I could do the thing. But, you know, any of your listeners that are like at least the age of 30, and I'll speak it for you, you don't have to say it of yourself, know how important like Pitchfork was.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the fact that like you had a Pitchfork approval and review at some point in time in 2012 meant a lot to just a passerby. Not like, oh, this means you've made it, but to me I was like, oh, that this 100% means this dude is legit, and in a lot of ways more legit than I am, certainly as an artist. But yeah, I just remember moving in there and being like, hey, I'm John. And I'm sure we weren't like, dude, we're friends immediately. But it was like, I guess we both got this job. I didn't know there was another job.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was another room job here.
No, yeah, I didn't even think of it as like any competition. It was just like, oh yeah, this is like, I mean, we'll see what happens. Because I was just, even then I was just like, well, are they going to give me work or do I have to find my own? I quickly understood that it was having to find my own for the most part. But it was a very interesting experience. Like I can't like I think about it often as just like probably, I don't know, like in the realm of like other friends' experiences of moving to Brooklyn, I've you know, selfishly think mine is like probably one of the most interesting just because
I agree
of that.
I agree.
And yeah, you and I became like, you know, really good buddies because of it, and you got involved in my music because of it, which is makes it also very important.
Do you remember how? Here, you ask. I'm curious of where that's going to go. If this is going to seg into how we got involved into each other's music.
No, but
okay.
But we can get involved in that.
We'll get there, I'm sure.
Well, no, we can right now. I was always I was always apprehensive of working with other people because at that time I had been working solo for about 4 or 5 years, and I was just really in my own head, like in terms of just producing my own stuff. And the fact that, you know, bringing someone else in was very nerve-wracking for me.
Well, it happened slowly.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, you brought me in and then we've done everything together since. I don't remember. I mean, now I kind of feel like I got to like look at the Brothertiger Wikipedia. Let me just quick look at your Spotify.
I'm not on Wiki.
You're not on. Come on, one of these fans needs to make you a wiki. It's not your job to make one.
Yeah, we gotta.
You're big enough to have a wiki. Okay, albums. Let's see.
You did one song called "In Mind."
I didn't quite do the song.
You did the vocals.
I did the vocals, exactly. Okay, so I'm just looking at this. Golden Years, which has your infamous, famous song "Lovers" on it, and it came out in March of 2012. So obviously we were still in college. We graduate maybe a month and a half later, and then we're in New York in June. And if my memory serves me, I know you're doing your thing. You're making music in your bedroom. I had just joined this band Such Gold maybe the month prior. That summer, I'm on tour. We both moved there in June, probably early mid-June.
No, I moved there, I think, early fall.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, in September?
Yeah, something like that.
No way.
Yeah, it was like the end of summer, early fall.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I do.
I can't exactly remember.
Because I was still living in Ohio, like after I graduated for that whole summer. And then I came.
You know what? Maybe you're right, because maybe Brian still lived in that room.
Yeah. Right.
Brian, our boss, or our
former
boss.
Former owner of the gallery. Rest in peace.
Owner, boss, and Brian's not dead.
He's alive.
The studio's dead. I think that, okay, so I'll have to recalibrate my memory a little bit. But that summer I'm on tour a bunch, so maybe that's why it somewhat feels like I meet you at the same time, because like pretty much all of July I'm on tour with Such Gold. August, half of it I'm on tour with Such Gold again. I just graduated from college, and I'm immediately thrust into like trying to make records to pay my rent in New York, but also joining this band that like seems like it's the way forward for me to like live out rock star dreams. So you must move there in September or August or September.
Something like that, yeah.
So again, I had probably honestly spent maybe a week in this, 2.5 weeks in this apartment before you moved there. We come to know each other. Are we playing together live before we do In Mind? No. We do In Mind first. We do In Mind first. Okay. Then I remember you are recording Future Splendors. I remember you're working on the songs. And there's one evening where I don't know what I'm working on or why I'm working on it, but I'm working on, I have the control room above you booked for the evening or the day or something. I'm working on something, and you don't have vocals for that song, or maybe I heard that song and I was like, can I record the vocals?
Yeah, I didn't mean I don't know.
Yeah, you're probably like, I don't know about this song. And I probably begged you to record the vocals.
Yeah.
And then we did the vocals. Yeah. And I remember feeling like that was like, oh, that was fun. Like we had a good time collabing it out. Again, this is so early in my career that I'm sure if I listen to it now, I'm like, there's no chance I would ever coach you that way. We had this experience the other day when we were like listening to old stuff. We were like, what were we thinking?
Right.
Whatever. And then I think we had a good time on that. And then at that time, I'm super touring in a band pilled. And I'm like, yo, the way that you need to do this, Jon, and I'm sure I'm like confident about this, is like, you need to put a band together and I'm going to play in the band. We live together already. We're working on stuff. This sounds like a good idea. So we put together the first iteration of a Brothertiger live band. Right?
Yep.
And here, I don't know. You take it from here. What do you remember? What do you remember about that coming me to you on that? You know.
I remember again feeling very nervous about it, and just like, is this?
I'm probably not nervous at all. I'm probably like,
no. You just walk in and just kind of do it. But yeah, we got drums, bass, guitar, me. It was fun. Yeah,
we did a couple tours.
Did a couple tours down to South by. That was fun, and then. Yeah, like we did that for like maybe a year and a half, and then that's when I came with like Out of Touch, and I was like, I think you should be involved in the whole shebang as a producer. That was my first.
But why? But maybe also there was like, for that, was there a discussion about it being full band, or we were just sort of still on this level that like that's kind of the way it should go? You should have a real drummer and everything.
It was. From the get-go, I believe it was full band. And, I booked some time at that studio, and at the time, we were trying to figure out who's going to play drums on the record. And, we just, obviously we got Pope in there and everything. We got
our friend Nick Pope. Incredible drummer. And go on. Yeah, I remember for that, we had the time booked. We were going to make this record, and I think because at that time we had already toured a bunch, it's like 2 years into our New York experience, maybe, right? 2 years? So, like, I feel like we were feeling a little more seasoned.
Yeah.
I was working a bunch. You were working a bunch, and you were also at another studio?
I was interning a lot at other studios while I was at the gallery.
You were kind of in... I was trying my fucking hardest to... Can I curse?
Yeah, you can curse.
I was trying my hardest to do it my way at the studio, and I remember you had clients, but you were also interning at the cool studios.
Yeah,
I remember you were kind of on assistant track position at like the hip studios in town.
Yeah, I was trying to go that way because, I don't know. I think when I was really gunning for studio work, I just wasn't as good as like at like networking and like really like digging in, like let me record you as like I think you were, that was like your strong suit back then, still is, and arguably and was just like, very much more like pushing for your own discography. For me it was just like, I want to see if I can like maybe make it work at an already a place that already has like just work coming in. But obviously all of that changed and, it morphed and everything. But
the reason I'm even bringing that up is I'm trying to put myself back in like where we were personally at the time when we entered the studio thing, because I remember feeling in a certain way more confident about what we were about to do. But we went in with, what was his name, Matt Boynton, who had this really cool studio, Vacation Island.
Yeah.
Yep. And we recorded most of the instrumental to the record in like 4 days.
Yeah, for Out of Touch, yes.
Which is still wild to me to imagine that. But
yep. I talk about that often with you, about how I was broke insane. And it was just like, we only have 4 days.
yeah. And then you must have done vocals, and then you were coming down to mix it. And because, again, like, it shouldn't be understated that from me, again, I'm sure your memory of your own career is different, because we all need to be as modest as possible, because at the end of the day, like, we're living modest lives. But I remember from me feeling like I was, and to this day, I'm still hungry to like be my best. But I remember there were other people that you had worked with before as mixers or as whatever that were like, I really want to mix this record, because like the record was really fucking cool. So people wanted to mix your record. But I remember being like, John, please let me mix the record.
Already gone this far.
Let me mix the record. I'll do it for $700.
That's it.
I did it for $700.
Yeah.
I think I did the entire for $700. But I will never forget. My band Such Gold had just made like a kind of big budget record for a Sony subsid label out in Colorado, and I was a little humbled by the experience, because I like went out there with the demos for the record, and other recordings that I had made, and I thought that people at the studio were gonna like be impressed by me, and like they were impressed by me in the sense that like I was the point man for my band, and I was like organizing stuff and whatever, and like, you know, did a lot, wore a lot of hats. But they were like, yeah, these are good sounding demos, I think. You know, they weren't like, oh, that was incredible, you know, you're ahead of your time with whatever. So I got humbled a little bit, but I got to also see like really top tier shit happen when I'm like 23. And I come back and we make that record, and Out of Touch is the first record I mixed upon getting back from there. So like I really felt like I had like a new internal standard of how things needed to sound. And I remember, honestly, my memory of mixing that record and putting it together is more or less that like, I remember we did the first mix, and again, I far be it for me to say that in 2013, 14, I'm an experienced mixing engineer, or even experienced in terms of like what musical languages we've been going for, or what even that I like truly. You know what I mean? I'm still a baby when I think about that. You know, 23 years old. But I remember the first couple mixes. I'm like, these are cool. I think, John, come. We still live together? Yeah. We still live together. I'm like, come upstairs. Like, let's listen to the mix in my room. We're gonna play Super Smash Bros. And listen to the mix. Make sure you like it. So I'm playing it out of
Alesis.
These Alesis old studio monitors, like the phono or the headphone into my record player receiver. He's like, I like them. There's not enough reverb. There's not enough this. There's not enough that. And I just remember feeling this internal thing of like, shit, it's not there yet. And then I like obsessively went downstairs, upstairs on the mix to Wake.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think when I finally got it into a place that we were like really happy on it, I was like, it was ecstasy for me, because to me still, I had been working full time and paying my bills with making records for 2 years maybe, but that's like the first record I feel like I really mixed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the first thing I really feel like I set out to mix this record, and then I mixed this record. And I just remember it feeling kind of ecstatic as we're working on it, because like it's just going well. We're really confident about it. I remember working on High Tide, and I remember somehow stumbling upon like the feedbacky drum thing that we got for it and being like, this is really cool. And like we weren't like second guessing ourselves, other than maybe you occasionally being like more reverb or something like that. Yeah. Meanwhile, by the way, I listened to that record. There's not that much reverb on it. Like in contrast to like wherever we've gone on the last couple of things, like I just think I didn't quite understand it yet, but it's definitely like the opening round to that working itself out. Mixing that, it comes out, and I remember all of our peers really liking it. I don't remember how it, again, because I'm removed from, I'm not you, I don't know like how it felt to be you to put it out and like, if it felt like it caught quickly or what, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time it was a slow burn, but then maybe after like 6 months, it really caught on. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It was, because I don't even know. I guess that was 2015. So like, like I guess Spotify and stuff that was like just starting to take hold, and
Yeah.
and so it was different. It was a different like era, really.
I'm still rolling around with an iPod when I'm going on tour in 2015.
Right.
We still have Magellans in the car
But
and fucking
yeah, it
rocking
got really good
iPods.
press and whatnot. But like, we did some vinyl and that sold really well off the get go. So I think all in all, like it wasn't like it was a muted response early, but it was like it wasn't like hype, It was like
Yeah.
but it's like it's different. It's tough because I'm comparing it to like things that I've done in the past like 5 or 6 years with, and the atmosphere is just different now. So
it's so different. It's hard for me to remember the atmosphere, but I do remember our peers having the record and listening to it at parties and stuff like that, and some of our and I remember feeling confident, almost immediately confident at the time that it was a special and cool record.
Yeah.
And again, I specifically remember again when I look at the backdrop of my own career and my own milestones, and that was a huge milestone for me because again, I didn't feel like I wasn't fighting you to work on your stuff. It wasn't like that, like we were at this point, we were like bros. We were living together and we were making music, and even if we come from slightly different worlds, we don't really come from different worlds,
Yeah.
And that just felt like a really good culmination of like everything that we've been going for. Because again, for me as a record maker, for me as a mixer, for me as anything, it's like the first really good thing that I feel like I was part of.
Well, that's interesting too, because I mean, looking at you now, you're prolific in the world of, punk, rock, hardcore.
Rock.
I guess.
Yeah.
Here's a question. What do you like when you tell people you produce records? What's the genre you say?
I say I work. I mean, I'll say rock, punk, hardcore, alt rock, but I'll blanket and I'll say I work primarily in subculture guitar music.
Subculture guitar music. I like that. Yeah.
Which is not far away from Brothertiger, because you're subculture music too.
Exactly.
I refer to you as my 80s pop guy.
Yeah.
For the people that are uninitiated and don't know who you are, or like I'm talking about stuff, or like when I need to remind everyone in the room that like I do more than just fucking hardcore records, I'm like, I also work with this 80s pop
80s
worship
pop
guy. He's like maybe the first thing I did that kind of did well. Meanwhile, that record is not that 80s either, even though I think even at the time we were like, you're really 80s.
Oh, yeah. I mean, easy to say at the time.
Yeah, easy to say. I work in subculture. I work in rock. I'm a rock producer.
Yeah.
It's okay, rock. Yeah.
Rock guy.
Rock guy.
Yeah, because when you look at your discography, now, you see primarily rock records, primarily punk records. You see me, kind of like a little offshoot. Do you,
a little offshoot.
I'm interested in how you view it. Like, you've already kind of talked about it, of course, but like, would you consider my music in your realm to be left field, or do you consider just there's kind of a through line through everything for you?
I think there's a through line through everything. I think for me personally, because of how I came up as an engineer, like even though the stuff that I'm way more known for is, stuff in the heavy rock community, like Drug Church, Drain, The Story So Far, stuff like that. Those are just like three of the more notable ones. I come from being my first dream as a producer engineer is really just being a New York engineer. And I think the age of people that you and I come from, where we interned at studios and stuff, there wasn't necessarily like this immediate notion that I'm going to like work on quote unquote my music, or my type of music. Yeah. For my entire life, like my sitting down and listening to music stuff has revolved around guitar for the most part, even though like my tastes, as like go way further than that. Like you and I connected probably initially on like Baths and like some like Telephone Tel Aviv and like wild electronic music stuff. But of which has always been something that I like in tandem and equally so. But I think as a producer and an engineer, you and I and our generation in general come more from being an engineer of music and New York engineer. So which means like on Monday you can record like free jazz where they're like, this song needs to sound like Purple, and then Tuesday a rapper doing like 4 songs, and then Wednesday doing guitars for my band or whatever. You just are into recording and you're into making music and you're into doing the whole thing. So like in the bigger scheme, I don't see it as different because I just love working on music, and the same like hairs on the back of my neck that I try to listen to on whether a decision is correct from like if this melody should change or if this snare drum is bright enough is the same 3 hairs on the back of my neck, the same goosebumps, you know? Like I remember when we were working on Dancer on the Water, like I'm arranging extra stuff on the drums, and I'm like, the same thing when I'm like doing pre-pro with Drug Church. I'm like, yo, left crash on this one, like both crashes on this one. Yeah. It like sort of comes from the same place that, the function and the form of how we put stuff together is a little bit different for sure, but it doesn't truly feel different. If anything, obviously me and you at this point have worked on, we're working on our 4th full-length album. Right,
currently,
and 2 other EPs. I'm not sure if I wasn't supposed to say that or whatever. 4th full-length album, 2 EPs, and like a number of other things. We've made a lot of music at this point. It is a somewhat of a nice break from my everyday life to work on Brothertiger. Yeah. But that's not just because the music is different. That's also because like we have a musical history that just goes back so fucking far that like there's something else there too that we get to build on every time, and it's like a new challenge every time. It's like, how can we do something different and still be working together on this? You know?
Yeah, that's what I see in it too. Gosh, you're good at just kind of going through the questions that I'm about to ask you.
I'm a yapper.
You're a yapper.
You know I'm a yapper.
Let's see. Okay, we went through all of that. Lord Almighty. Yeah. Okay, so when for you as a producer, and I'm sure a lot of people who you work with view this as well. Like when I work with you, like I notice like the way you work. It's very unique. I've worked with a few other people before, but not like as in depth as you. And you look at things very. It's not even like you look at something technically. It's like you look at it from a very like outside looking in perspective always. Like when you like when I share like a new plugin or something that I've discovered that I think you should check out, like I'll give it to you. You'll open it up. I'll watch you like mess with it for like a few seconds, and it's like I feel like you always like instantly get like something cool out of it. Whereas for me, when I like get like a new plugin or something or a new piece of gear or like just something outboard, like it takes me a minute to really like dial something cool in. I'm always just like, but maybe it's just in my head and it's just like something, but like I always notice that whenever I'm working with you and like you're just like turning a few knobs like once, like for like 5 seconds, it's just like immediately like boom, that's cool.
And that's awesome. I like that. I mean, I'll take that as a major compliment. I honestly feel like part of that has just been I feel that way when I watch you work on synths, by the way. Like when I see you work with synthesizers, hardware or in the computer, like I've talked about this to a lot of people before because obviously in my world the stuff that we become obsessed with in the guitar space are like pedals and amps and like knowing how to like push them to go a certain direction or to do certain things, or like for instance, you love a jazz chorus, right? Me and you are both huge jazz chorus amp fans. There's a couple bizarro tricks you can do with jazz choruses in heavy music to essentially make them make practically like arcade fucking feedback sounds. And like you have to do a couple funny things to make it work. But like when you see someone that just knows how to make that shit happen, you're like, whoa, that was cool. That's how I feel when I see you work on a synthesizer, by the way. When you're like, wait, I have an idea for a sound. And then you're playing with the filters and the decays and the release. I'm like, like, you know, Tim and Eric like space meme. No, but I mean, in terms of that's a supreme compliment, and I love.
I'm just gonna ask where you think that mentality comes from in you.
I think that comes from going back to the experience that I had right before doing Out of Touch, where I thought that they were going to be impressed by my demos or whatever, and they are listening to them, and they're like, yeah, these sound like good demos or whatever. But I'm watching Jason Livermore, who's, again, a sensei of mine, who's mastered the last
Brothertiger.
2 records. Yep. Yeah, the last 2 Brothertiger records. I'm watching him mix the record, and I'm just seeing him fucking spin knobs to the right, turning things up, doing stuff fearlessly, pushing in and out of sound, not being afraid to go far, pull back, and whatever. And I remember asking him, like, what? So why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? The other? He's like, I don't know, man. Just twist knobs until it sounds good. And that sounds diminutive, but it's like true. Yeah. It's just like, and then when you get that mentality in place, you're like, you know what? I'm just used to crunching and pushing back and forth and like finding what is working for me, that you just do that so many times that I'm like, okay, I get it now. I think in that regards. And I'm still finding new shit out to this day about stuff that I like and stuff that how I want stuff to sound and how I want to develop sounds. Again, me and you have been having a lot of these conversations lately because the music that we're working on now, we're trying to find this place where we're trying to make something that sounds like nothing we've ever done before. So like at one time I'm spinning knobs hard to the right and left, trying to find that thing, but also discovering things that I didn't know that I wanted it to sound like as we've been putting the drum tracks together. And it's just been like, whoa. Yeah. Yeah.
That's happened every time I've worked with you, is we kind of discover something we didn't expect in the process.
For sure.
But I'm sure that happens with you with most bands you work with when you're producing, especially.
I think so.
You're discovering that. It's interesting because I think I come from a more a perspective of more like, like this is how a compressor is supposed to be set up. And maybe my mind has been kind of stuck in that realm. Not so much stuck in that realm, but just kind of like, I still kind of latch on to that world a bit. And that's why like when I say like, when I like fuck around with a compressor or an EQ, I can't immediately get the same thing that you can. And like, it's like, you're saying it's more of like just kind of like messing with knobs until it sounds good. But I think you have definitely, at this point, since that point when you were out in Colorado, you've definitely developed like a process of just messing with knobs. Like
100%. Yes. 100%. I do feel as though it's the repetitions of working with so much equipment and so much sounds that like there is this kind of like fucking congenital rings of like understanding and happenstance, as well as like what you actually want to make happen, where you like can feel the bend and push of compression, you could feel the bend and push of equalization, and like what you're doing, and like kind of getting your head and your ears into how sounds bend, that allows you to like push deep in and out to find that bit without worrying about it, because I'll be you even saw it the other day when we were fucking around with some gear on the Brothertiger tracks. We were like messing with some weird drum stuff. We ended up in some cool compression lands that it's like you can only get there because you're like, oh, I'm feeling the program material push against the circuit of this a certain way, and I know that I can probably maybe get it to open up even more if I keep pushing that way, and just the repetition of doing that so many times. I'm like, okay, and again, to this day, I'm like, do I know anything? Maybe I know goddamn nothing. Well, but you know.
I think through that is your discovery of like this compressor versus this compressor, getting this type of sound, this EQ versus that EQ, like getting that type of sound. Like you're much more dialed into that now, than you were. And me,
way more.
Yeah, and me, I'm kind of still on the outer periphery of that. Like I often ask you, like, why do you use that EQ as opposed to like this EQ?
Meanwhile, you are no slouch with that stuff. You're no slouch at all. Like, but that's also how I feel about you and synthesizers. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I see you like pick sounds. I'm like, but what about this one? You're like, we're messing with that. You're like, this is cool, but hold on. And you like go, and then you go somewhere else. And I'm like, whoa, how did you pull that one out? And like, I feel that when I see you, and I think that's also slightly again, you are no slouch. If you wanted to just engineer and mix and whatever records for a living, you 300% could from like a skill set point of view, and I know that. I mean, case in point, your mixes for the Fundamentals tracks are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Thank
your
you.
rough mixes for the new record are amazing. You know, we're obviously like taking them in a different direction
Yeah.
because we're arranging them and executing them differently. But if like that was just the record, it would have been fucking amazing and fine. But you know, I feel like what you're describing also, and maybe the difference between us with those two elements and our degree of difference on how much we're able to bend them, is also kind of the fundamental difference in certain ways between like on a production team, the artist and like the producer engineer. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're making music, sometimes I'll do this thing to you. I'm like, do a save as just in case we go back. And like, usually you don't give a fuck. You're like, no, blah, blah, blah. I can do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like if like one of your synths didn't load right, you're like, I don't give a fuck. I'll fucking, I'll make something new right on the spot. Like it's a little different, you know? So I feel like those are just kind of two parts of the same, you know, fucking two-headed dragon of like how to make something work. Like it could 100% work if you were the only person in the room.
Yeah.
But obviously we've found and happened upon some interesting results because we've stuck by working with each other and been through several different seasons of the thing.
Yeah.
Like the out of touch season of working on something is us kind of coming into our own. And then we made that Chain of Islands EP, which was kind of like a recapitulation on like, can we do it again? And like, that was cool. And then,
still not comfortable with having you record my vocals. So did over
to this day?
No. During the time of
At the
Chain
time,
of Islands,
at the time.
where
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
I overdubbed. I did like 5 takes of each song.
I was like, okay, you can record them, but just do 5 takes. And you were doing it shirtless in like my back room.
Yeah,
and, like,
because there was no air conditioning. Yeah.
And then I was like, let me comp them, but like fucking just take 5 takes. But I recorded them on the next one.
You recorded them on the next one, yeah.
On Paradise Lost, with
Paradise
the exception
Lost.
of the song Paradise Lost. You did that one after we recorded everything.
Yeah.
You did that was the first song I mixed, but the last song you recorded.
Okay.
And I think other than making like Melodyne harmonies in the second verse, whatever, you recorded that one in full, which is exactly what I mean. You don't fucking need me, you know. But there's something else.
Yeah,
that
but I
happens
do. I do. In terms of getting like a different take. It's like it's the same idea of like having another set of ears mixing or another set of ears mastering. Like
100%. I don't like to master my own
in
material
terms of
for that reason.
The production side of things, producing my stuff. That's how I feel nowadays. I can't imagine doing it any other way.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a few more things.
Go.
Still in the world of like producing what you do, what do you feel you do that's wildly different or not, maybe not wildly different, but different from other producers kind of in your realm?
From like a technical or creative
anything. Yeah.
Could be either. What do I do that I feel like is different? Because I feel like everyone that I know, we all have slightly different, like everyone for the most part, I think in the alt rock heavy guitar based subculture community is more or less trying to do the same thing, but are doing it differently and ultimately looking for a different result. I think for me, one thing that is interesting about my process is like, I'll have like kind of 2 moods about how I will do certain parts of the recording, which I'm sure you can also relate to in us working together, is like I will do some stuff so meticulously because like I'm looking for a very meticulous result on something, and whether that's a vocal, whether that's a guitar part, whether that's drumming or whatever, I'll do something so meticulously, and I won't hyperanalyze to perfection because I really am not a perfectionist, and I think even in the moments as a mixer in my world, like some people will occasionally like call something overproduced. I think even when I'm overproducing something, I get like the feedback from people that are like, oh, I like how kind of like extra raw this is on some ends. I just don't think my ear lets me go all the way there.
I see what you're saying.
To like make something like super shiny. Although I think I have plenty of shine in general, but going back to this, I think certain elements of my process I will do so incredibly meticulously, and then some elements of my process I will let happen so incredibly spontaneously, almost like the full-blown opposite, and I'll give them almost equal importance. So like I was just working with this band Modern Color for the last week. They're more or less in like my punk, emo, indie, whatever scene, but they're like a little bit more of like a noise rock band, a little bit more like Drive Like Jehu than they are like an emo band, even though some people would hear them as an emo band. I think in spirit they're a little bit more of a San Diego noise rock band from the 90s where they'll play these big fucking crazy chords. There's a couple parts on the record that sounds a little like Deerhoof, but it's in our world, but it's still in like the emo punk world, whatever. And, you know, there's sections of the guitar work that all... Okay, actually, there's almost a perfect example. The drums, no click, almost entirely one take each song. No editing at all, no click. The rhythm guitars... very, very particular about how I'm making sure that they're working out together. Even if they're not always perfectly in tune, even if they're not perfectly, I'm doing whatever. Okay? The lead guitars, completely slapshod, like big long takes of stuff.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like noise, whatever. The lead vocal, meticulously done. The backup vocals, couple takes, let them fucking chorus and be a little out of tune against each other in a cool way, let it go. So like I'll do the thing with layer caking in general where I will do some stuff that's really off the rail and like
I experienced that firsthand.
Exactly. And then some stuff where I'm like, let's get so meticulous.
What guides you in that? Why do you think you choose one thing over another in terms of
I think it's honestly just I think it's just instinct.
Okay.
It's just instinct. Like, oh, these drums feel good. Like, what's the point of overthinking this? Okay, I'm getting a rhythm guitar. These rhythm guitars feel great, but I think to get the result that I'm hearing, like I need to micromanage your tuning because like for one reason or another, I need to micromanage how you're playing this.
Do you think...
Or, like, as the song is happening, like, you've thought about the song on the guitar for a while, you've been playing it a certain way, but I'm hearing a lot of different ways that we can make this better. Like, both these guys play jazz masters. Jazz masters can do a really cool thing where they feedback if they're a little too hot, and they can, you know, generally they have a tremolo arm, so there's a certain sound with single coil guitar work where you're, like, playing these really thick, like, minor seventh chords, and you're trem barring down, and like they didn't have any of that written into the composition, so like we're writing a lot of that stuff, and to do that to feel right, you kind of gotta like get the right take, and you gotta work it out the right way. Okay, lead guitar is like, it sounds awesome when there's unruliness and feedback. The only way for that to be the way is to let it happen that way and not meticulously micromanage how that's happening. So I think it's like on a moment by moment, case by case basis, how can we let this be both meticulously thought out and meticulously intentionally worked on, because it's not just about, again, it's not about perfection for me. I don't think any of my records sound perfect. I like there to be warts. I like there to be a little too much something, a little too little something, whatever. No crime in that. I think that's great. I think asymmetry in general is like holy, and when something is like too perfect, it's fucking strange and like
agreed.
Alienating and unhuman. So finding ways to like both do that so intentionally, but then letting there be this fucking haze of happenstance happening at the same time. And I think in Brothertiger, that's happened in a number of ways. I think it's like the way that we will do that, even if it's done meticulously, is at least on the self-titled, we went crazy with some backup vocal stuff, but like we didn't go down there like writing it down on a fucking piece of paper and a calculator, like how can this work perfectly? Me and you were just like shooting really fast next to each other. We're singing into these crazy chains, so even though I'm meticulously comping you to feel a certain way and like suggesting that you approach words and notes a certain way, we're also like singing against something that is shaping the whole sound at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, even with the way we record drums, we're like, I don't know, we're going to do these 4 with Adam. We're going to do these 4 with Russell. And like, who fucking cares which? We're not like thinking about it too hard, but by the time we're working on it, we're thinking about it hard. You know?
I've noticed this. I've definitely experienced this phenomenon with you firsthand. Like some of even the drum days, you were just like hammering away at like certain parts. And then others, it's just like, we did like 4 passes of the whole song. You're like, it's good. Like, and
exactly. I think there's space for both of those things, and it just kind of comes like how it comes. Like, this is feeling good. It will feel good down the line too. Like, just keep on working on it and keep on being the like, you got to be like, how do you like kind of housekeep it, kind of being a butler to it, kind of just like making sure that you don't lose the plot and just keep it moving.
Right.
You know what I mean? And however the journey that is, that's one thing. Things can get complicated and difficult over time, or things can happen extremely easy.
Yeah.
But both of those modes are equally valid. You know?
So I just have a few more things, then we'll wrap it up.
Sure.
One thing I wanted to talk about real quick was our shared passion for strange, like 80s and 90s outboard gear.
Oh yeah, love this.
We love our like weird parameters. We love things like that. I guess overarching question, but like, what do you think? What sets a piece of gear apart for you? Like in today's world, like what gives it? What makes it unique for you in terms of?
I think there's like. Yeah, there's like two things that I like. I mean, I love vintage digital. Me and you both love vintage digital. And
crisp.
I think crisp. I think that there's something that's so cool about, like, you know, with outboard gear, the shit that I have oscillates between super nice EQs. Like I have a curve bender, you know, like a really master grade, beautiful EQ. And I equally like my SPX 90. You know what I'm saying? Like completely different use cases. But I think what makes a piece like that special to me is it really just needs one sound that it does that you just can't recreate in any other way. And like the two things that I can think about are one, discovering my love for the SPX 90 honestly before I knew that it was such a rock thing. So like I discovered it with you on Out of Touch because Matt was recording the bass and he was molting off his Neotech my bass into the SPX 90 to give it bass chorus. And I think I understood that like some people would chorus the bass in the past, but I didn't really get how crucial that was to your sound until that thing.
Because it's not like, just a bass chorus. It's very unique. Yeah.
It's very unique. And so it does that sound. And I bought that one from him. I own the SPX 90 that we used on that record, and I use it to this day. Or it's currently getting the power supply replaced. But I, yeah, I mean, what... Does that answer the question, or did I kind of like miss?
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, just talking about it, just I mean, having like one flavor.
I had two memories, and the other major memory was on the self-titled. You have those bizarre Roland smash boxes that are like bass preamps, and like you have the bass preamp one that there's just something about that compressor where like the components are out of spec and it just sounds like shit in the best smacky way possible. And we were running all of our drums through like this bass preamp because it just has this unique sound that like. With one box, you get this saturation, this box tone, and this compression envelope that how could I possibly find that in something else? And I think there's like kind of a magical synergy when you connect with a piece of equipment that way. And like it could be something as transformative as that, or it could just be an equalizer. Like I own a Sony MXP MCI 3036 console, and I've re-racked some of the EQs, and the EQs have like an extremely special flavor. It's like not a super expensive EQ, but I love it just as much as the API EQs I have, you know, because it just, if not more in certain ways, because it just has such a color to it that inspires you to, again, twist the knobs to the right in a way that you can't expect to do the same way every time on a computer, you know? Like I pull up this EQ on the bass guitar and I'm cranking the mid-range and I'm like, wow, that sounds fucking cool. And if you were to look at like what that curve looked like, it's probably bizarre.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course.
Know? And it's the form factor and like that feedback loop between equipment and your ear that just makes the use of something so magical. The SPX 90, there's one patch in there that's next to unusable because it makes it sound like it's coming out of a Halloween superstore. It's called Delay Vibrato. I think I know that the SPX 90 recycles its patches after like 17 or 18, so I know it's also patch 89, I think, but it like makes it go like and it sounds really cool on lead guitar. And the only way you end up there is just like as an aux return. The only way you end up there is like you're like, what could this possibly sound good on? And you mess around for a little bit, and it just does not feel as good to do that in the computer. Now sometimes it does, but like there's just when you're using hardware and when you're using vintage digital shit or stuff in general, there's just a much different feedback loop of like when you get stoked.
Yeah,
you know,
that's cool. Actually, I just adjusted the bias on the bass amp. Roland.
Oh, really?
I finally got a new scope, and I just went through it and did the whole like test procedure thing. So Well, I haven't plugged it in again yet, but maybe it'll be a little less noisy.
That's fine. I mean, I'm sure no matter, even if you changed it, I'm sure it's still like.
Yeah, I didn't have to
and
change
really
it much.
cool.
It was like literally off by like a volt. It was like nothing crazy,
Yeah.
but I was like,
Yeah.
see if I can get in there. Cool. Okay, my last like big question for you, I guess it's to do with the genre you primarily work in. And correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I would say, as an outsider looking in, that the album is still but king in your world, right? Like,
Yeah, the album is definitely
it's
still
still
king.
like the most important part for these bands. Like for me, I guess in more pop music and more maybe in more electronic music, it's becoming less important. I guess the question I have is what if you foresee anything becoming like the next big thing in punk rock, like if it's like a trend or.
Well, you say the album is king, and I do agree with you that it is, because at the end of the day, if you're a new band, you need to put out a collection of songs. New band being like, even if you're established but you're newer, you need to put out a collection of songs so people will potentially really grasp onto one and raise the waves upon which your boat is sailing. Or if you're a long-time legacy band, you do need to put out a record every once in a while, even if your fans don't love it that much, because like that's the only way that you're going to stay relevant, and they don't even need to like it. You know what I'm saying? If you're a big band, if you're a really big band, even if you're like middle-sized big band, just showing the effort shows a lot to your fans, because people do want you to put out music, and people do want you to put out a substantive body of music.
Okay.
But I will say that despite that, the one thing that I say to pretty much everyone is like, you really only need one song. That was the way it was in the 80s, 90s, and that's the way it is now. If you have one song that people really fucking love, that's really the only thing you need to pump you up for a lifetime of career. But that being said, that will pump you up to the point that you still need to be able to put out some music with some consistency. Now, what do I think is like the next big thing in music? I'm not sure. I do think this is not necessarily an album or singles conversation, but is actually maybe an authenticity conversation. I think that there has been in rock music for a long time, and still to this day, there's a sonic obsession with things being a certain amount of big or a certain amount of perfect, and snare drums over. I'm sure if you like were to look at and I'm guilty of this in some ways too, for better and for worse, like you look at if you were to just solo the drums and you were to look at like the crest factor and EQ profile of those drums over time, snare drums are probably getting lower and lower and lower and fatter and fatter and fatter. And now I think things are actually kind of trending the opposite way, where people are actually craving more authenticity and are actually looking for there to be more warts and like earnestness in music. And kind of on the same thing, drums are getting tuned a little tighter because there's like kind of a 90s aesthetic. Not even 90s. There's like a little bit more of a raucous, rude aesthetic when things are not necessarily like and like have more of a crack to them. People associate that with a little bit more liveliness. But again, this is not a conversation about snare drums. I do think in general the next thing that it has been occurring silently and overtly is a more deliberate return to authenticity and earnestness in people's music, and not being completely songcraft pilled to the point that you deny yourself experimentation and the ability to do something interesting. Because I'll be the first to also be a proponent of a well-written song. I think there's almost nothing more. There's few things more satisfying and beautiful than like a well-written song. And a well-written song can be intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, you know?
Yeah.
But for a long time, people, and still to this day, become myopically obsessed with what that form looks like, sounds like, and contains. So like if it has to have the right amount of hooks and subhooks, yada, yada. Meanwhile, for a lot of the groups that I've worked with, their best performing song, yours included, is oftentimes one of the strangest. High Tide is how long? 6 minutes long?
Mm-hmm.
It's a 6 minute long song. If you're going to look at that, oftentimes people are like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
you know? Yeah. Drug Church, similarly, like their biggest song is intro, verse, chorus, and then like a big outro that is unrelated to the chorus in a sense. Like it takes elements from it. Each of the best songs from the records that we've done have all, me and you and me and them and other bands have had like some of the most success on the songs that are at their core, they're most authentically unique. Yeah. And I think that resonates with audiences and artists way deeper than we've given it credit for. Like I just worked with this band, Modern Color, that I mentioned earlier, where the record we're working on right now, which I'm so stoked about, does not stop itself from doing what it wants to do. Now, it doesn't do anything for its own sake. I've been in bands where we made music a little bit for its own sake. I've even said in the past that Such Gold record that we made in Colorado that completely opened up my career as a producer, that completely changed my headspace and ear canals as an engineer, also was the complete wrong record to make. Because like we were kind of, it was before I joined, they had already started popping up, but popping up in like this kind of catchy, cool, melodic, hardcore pop punk kind of thing. And then we made a record that did not pull any punches. It was not a simple record at all. It was like borderline a prog record, but we made some of it for its own sake. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily think that people want to hear artists be greedy and just do something because they think they like the smell of their own farts and sounds cool. But I think people do want their favorite artists to be unapologetically themselves and not be afraid to do something cool. And I think you can have a really beautifully done, cool song, record, whatever, and it still be weird, you know, and it still be you.
Hell yeah. Well, I think that's
what I want,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But I do think that there is a push for that.
I think I see I see it too. I mean, I definitely do. It's not.
That's what we're trying to do on the record that we're making right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not like, oh, we have to return to this chorus the same way. For the first time in a while, we've been singing each chorus and not planning on copy pasting them because like it's not a bad thing. Copy pasting chorus vocals is a good thing, you know? But like we're trying to find every corner we can to make something that like is living in its own universe a little bit more. You know?
I think that's a beautiful place for us to end.
Okay, cool.
That was awesome. Thank you for being a part of this. I think
Thank you.
We covered a lot of great ground. And
yes.
Before we wrap completely, you're the first person I wanted to start doing this with, but I wanted to get
my 3 favorite Kojima games.
3 favorite Kojima games. Well, I mean, I already know what those are, but so that's not a question. But I wanted to ask you if there's 3 bands or 3 albums you've been listening to lately that you could recommend to the listeners.
Okay, uniquely, I don't actually get to listen to a lot of music other than what I'm working on. But I did write. So I'm not interested in highlighting what I work on. Yep. But 3 bands. So there's this band, Liquid Mike. They're from Michigan. Okay. They put out a record last year called Hell is an Airport. This is kind of exactly what I'm talking about with like what I like to hear in songs. It's this really cool power pop record that is, I don't want to call it lo-fi. It's like it has a very unique fi to it. It's like he obviously does it himself, but it has such a cool crunch and push to it, and it's so uniquely in his own little universe. It's these power pop songs, which again are like very well crafted, almost entirely. But they have like a uniqueness to him, and he's not afraid to experiment with structure in general. Nice. It's called Hell is an Airport, this Liquid Mike record.
Oh, yeah. Love the name.
I just heard I like the name too, Liquid Mike. After playing MGS now, I think about that a little bit. Like I should ask him. I've DM'd him a couple times about how much I love his band. I was like, did you get that from Liquid Snake? He should make a record called Solid Mike.
Solid Mike. Naked Mike.
Yeah. Mike and Dave from Liquid Mike, if you're listening to this, you should consider that. Or Solidus
Mike. Les enfants terribles.
Les enfants terribles. And then make your EP called Riding. But other than that. And then the other one is this band from Chicago called Options, and their record is called Beast Mode. I discovered this completely randomly on Bandcamp. Why on Bandcamp? I spend no time on Bandcamp, but it is a cool platform, and I found this record, and it's this Chicago mathy band, super auto-tuned vocals, and there's like 4 guitar parts happening at all times, but they're always super simple parts, and it's like this really cool interweaving loopy song structure universe. The guitars didn't have a lot of cool fast chorus on them, and they're usually single note at a time, and they like lock and step, and it just itches this very particular part of my brain, which likes this super sweet vocal melodic math rock thing, but is not that mathy in terms of it like doing crazy shit. It's more like feeling like 4/4 the whole time, but it's not, and it's doing some really neat stuff in there.
Nice.
Beast Mode by Options.
Got it.
And then the last one, I just have to throw it out there, is this band I was just working on, Modern Color. Their last record, There Goes the Dream, I've just been listening to, because I've been listening to their shit on the way to the studio every morning just to remind myself of what they've done, where they're going, and what they want to do. And I really like their last record. Again, it's music that exists in my world, but they're not afraid to use these really extended cool chord voicings, and the lead guitar player plays more like Nils Klein and fucking Lee Ronaldo and shit like that, and you don't hear a lot of that kind of stuff in punk music in general. So it's I really like their band, and I really like the record that is gonna, I'm sure, come out later this year.
Nice. 3 wonderful recommendations.
Yes, sir.
Jon Markson, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I will be seeing you soon.
Yeah, I'll see you soon. We'll commiserate about stuff.
All right. Peace out, man.
Peace, bro.
This is Brothertiger's World. If you liked what you heard, definitely subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. If you want to access the video version of the podcast, consider becoming a member of Brothertiger's World, the fan club on Bandcamp. Not only do you get access to the podcast version of my live stream fundamentals sessions, but you get access to back catalog material of mine, instrumentals, discounts on merch, and much more. Thanks for listening. See you next time.